Welcome to the Prosperity Profiles podcast, sponsored by Prosperity Profilers, LLC. They'll help you look prosperous, feel prosperous, and be prosperous. We hope you listen often, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. Now here's your host, four-time #1 best-selling author, speaker, and business coach, Holly Porter.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another day at the podcast. We are here again on a bright, sunny day, and it's summer when we're recording this. So, I hope you're all out enjoying and having a great time and doing some fun things, because that's my motto. If it's not fun, I'm not doing it. I want to share with you another guest that I have today that we're going to be talking to. Her name's Tracey McConnell. How are you, Tracey?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Yeah, we want to welcome you to the show. And she has got some great things we're going to be talking about. Something that, a few years ago you wouldn't hear too much about, but her background, let me just share a little bit about Tracey. Tracey McConnell is a community development director with the Verde Valley Sanctuary. Did I say that right?
It's Verde Valley Sanctuary.
Verde, okay. So she believes in collaboration. And so, of course, that's what we're working on right now. She works with donors, volunteers, and friends, and helps families break free from devastating violence and to choose a healthier reality. And I love how she worded that. That is so beautiful. Tracey's no stranger to I have my tongue tied today. Tracey is no stranger to the nonprofit sector. She spent the past 3 years, 3 decades, sorry, not 3 years, 3 decades, a little difference, as a oh my gosh, I cannot speak today. What is up with me, Tracey? I'm like,
it's okay, you know what?
Philanthropy advisor, community facilitator, and grassroots organizer. She's produced a multi-million-dollar citizen-driven infrastructure to prevent raging floods in vulnerable rural neighborhoods and implemented and supervised state-renowned AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps VISTA programs to the domestic PeaceCorps. She's also helped establish a new nonprofit capacity building centers and countywide and statewide initiatives to address very challenging community issues. So she's drawing on her 30 years of experience and now focuses mainly on community and fund development. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Holly. It's great to be here.
I feel like it's like a Monday morning at 6 a.m. Oh, okay. But if you know me, you know that's just how I roll. And so I'm not going to go edit that or correct it or anything. It's just how I am. So
right on.
If you turn
it's real.
Yeah, that's all you get from me. That's just how I am.
I like that.
Well, okay. So this is awesome. Love your bio, all about you and what you've been about. You've just lived a life of service and giving back. And oh my gosh, thank you, first of all.
Thanks. Very nice.
It's amazing. So let's jump in and talk about, Verde Valley Sanctuary.
You got it. Yeah. Well, great. So Verde Valley Sanctuary has been here for more than 25 years in the area, quietly supporting victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and now just recently human trafficked victims. And our mission is to decrease the harm of domestic violence and sexual assault. And we do that through awareness, education, intervention, advocacy, and new opportunities. So, and we have a wide range of services that have grown in a way that's determined by the clients that we serve. And our clients are primarily women and children. However, we do serve men and the LGBTQ community. So it isn't, singular. It depends on the context of the situation. We'll be there to help as well. So we offer a 24-hour emergency hotline, safe shelter. We have a 28-bed shelter. Legal, and it's safe, it's undisclosed property. We also provide legal advocacy, counseling, and action planning for the families, safety and exit planning. Oftentimes that can be quite dangerous once a woman decides to leave the situation, that's when things get amped up sometimes. And so we are real careful to keep them super safe in their next steps. And we also provide youth education. That's our youth empowerment, youth education programs services. So we're teaching young people about healthy relationships. What does that really look like? And to speak at their developmental level, so that they can grasp this and recognize it, and make positive choices from that information. And we also have trauma support groups every week, some in Spanish and some in English. We also have community workshops and customized presentations that are around sexual harassment or sexual assault or domestic violence or human trafficking, depending on what the participants of those workshops really want to understand and act on in alignment with best practices. And then we are the only organization in the entire Verde Valley area, which is multiple rural communities, incorporated and unincorporated. So we're the only one in the area that is dedicated to assisting and empowering victims of domestic abuse and sexual assault. And we partner with numerous agencies on a daily basis to help our families get what they need.
Wow. I love it. Okay, so going back to some of those things that you touched on, you know, I don't share a lot of my personal, I have lots of stories, but for a long time, I didn't share, you know, things that I went through. And I think now my kids are all adults and have children of their own. And I think that was a lot of it, is I didn't want them to know maybe or understand, you know, and now they're adults and they can kind of look back and go, oh, that's what was going on. But, you know, I was a victim of domestic violence in a couple different instances, but you know, my marriage was very abusive, mostly mentally. It didn't get physically until towards the end when I already knew it was over, you know. But I think to know those resources, first of all, everybody, the Verde Valley Sanctuary is located in Sedona, Arizona, just so we didn't mention that, or did I? I don't think I did.
Yeah, it's actually, we have locations in Sedona as well as Cottonwood. Yeah.
Oh, Cottonwood as well. Okay, I didn't realize there was more than one location. These are so important, but you know, it doesn't mean that this is your only chance, you know, and if you live across to Maryland, you know, you have to get to Sedona, Arizona to get help. That is not where we're going with this. It's awareness. It's just knowing these places are available, because
that's right.
I didn't, like, honestly, this was, you know, 25, 28 years ago when I was in this particular situation, and I didn't know where to go. And the other thing is, my ex-husband worked for my dad, and so I felt like he snowed them all. You know, they had no clue. He continued to work for my dad a year after we were even divorced, which made it very challenging for me because he needed a job. I mean, and I needed child support, right? And so, you know, I didn't want to ruin that chance. But it's like, wow, as soon as they figured out, you know, what that was really happening and all about, then I felt like I got my family back. But I really did feel alone. And so for those of you listening, or if you know somebody, there's so much more awareness. There's so much help now that's out there that we didn't know before. And I remember I had a salon and spa for about 19 years in the town I was in. And so I was part of it, and they got a women's crisis center. And I would, at my salon and spa, we would bring women that were on the run, so to speak, that needed that help, and they needed to get things changed. And I'd bring them in, of course, at no charge. And, you know, if they had blonde hair, we dyed it dark, and went from long to shorter. We just did makeovers that not only made them still feel beautiful, but felt like they were safe. You know, it was really about creating them being safe, and then we'd get them out, right? And
I've got chills. That's powerful. Thank you.
And salon owners, if anyone, or when you go get your hair done next, anyone listening to this, mention that, because that's a service when people are looking to give back. Like, I was always struggling businesses, you know, in a smaller town, and it was hard for me to give cash, but I could give service. I was part of Rotary International for 14 years. We did international projects, local projects, created a veterans park. We did all these little community things, and that's how I could donate. I could go serve, and I could, you know, fundraise and do those things. So there's always a way you can help if the finances aren't there for you to be able to do that. Of course, there's the people that just want to write a check, and we need that too, right? Everybody needs money.
Absolutely.
To go around.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out there, that this is an awareness podcast today. This is about, you know, knowing that there's help out there to seek for it, and if you're needing it. And honestly, for a lot of years, I didn't even know I was being abused. I didn't know anything different.
That is the common experience. When you're, especially if you grow up in abusive homes, and then you move on to the same set of patterns, don't really understand how programmed you become. And that's what happened to me. So I share your story, that it didn't happen in my later relationships,
right?
But I had very few because I was so afraid that it would replicate itself until I was healed. So I didn't date. I was alone for the most part in my life. And I had to divorce my family.
Wow.
And so I know what it's like to be alone, to know that no one wants to believe you. No, it's and to stand up for that for yourself it's a very brave stepping out of that devastating violence and saying, there's got to be something better. And there is. And it's one of the reasons why I do this work, why I'm involved with community service, is it's a catharsis to me. It also taught me how to live a new reality. It took me a long time. It's taken me decades to get through it, the onions peeling kind of thing. And that's where we want to change things even more. Now that we have these centers all over the nation, and we are all working in concert and alignment with one another about what we're learning. And believe it or not, now the statistics are telling us 1 in 2 women will have experienced violence in their lifetime.
I thought it was
changed.
4.
It used to be 1 in 4.
Wow.
Then the research started revealing it's 1 in 3. And now the research is proving that it's 1 in 2. So whenever I speak in a group setting, now I put safety guidelines together for us to hold each other in emotional and physical safety as we explore another understanding of this, and that there is a way to heal and that there is support, and we're going to take it even further in our work.
I love that. Okay, so I just wanted to mention, when I look back at when I was helping these women, in my salon, that I look back at how much more powerful the help I could have given them would have been if I would have been vulnerable and I would have shared my own story. I didn't. Back then, my kids were, they were teenagers, and we were in a smaller town, and I just didn't want it to affect them. I never wanted to trash talk their dad. And so there was that behind it. But it's like, I think you got to figure out a way, like those women were probably leaving town. So it's not like that would have been the people I should have shared it with, right? Not just anyone at the salon.
It depends sometimes. And you know what? I trust the decisions that the decision you made. In a small town, an overheard conversation.
In a salon.
In a salon, and there you are, dealing with it in a way that your families may not have been prepared for. And so you took great care and held it sacred within you, and yet you reached out to women, no matter what your experience is, that a kindness goes a long, long way when you are leaving trauma and family devastation, all of those things, that someone acknowledges you and says you're real and you're beautiful and you're worth it. That keeps them going.
It does. And if you don't think it does, just try giving someone one compliment every day that you see, and just be sincere about it. Really look for something, because there are so many ways people can be beautiful, right?
Yes, I agree. Yes.
So what's the plans? Like how are things evolving for you with these statistics and these new things and developments happening? Where are you going with that, with the sanctuary?
Well, we're actually experiencing what the research is telling us. And this past year, Verde Valley Sanctuary has experienced an unprecedented demand for our services like no other time in our history. And again, been here over 25 years, and we've had been over capacity for the past year. So we've had at times needed to pay for hotel rooms for women and children because we just didn't have the room. But we'll do those types of things. We had an individual who was being human trafficked. She was discovered in Sedona, and some people were brave enough to rescue her. She's 22 years old. And we worked with the police and created an action plan, a safety plan, because those folks are going to be looking for her. And they'll investigate, they'll try to find her. And so what we decided was to send her back home in Texas, and with a safety and action plan there. She was escorted and made sure that, you know, she arrived safely. So we'll even pay for those types of expenses. But the demand is higher, and even our emergency hotline, we've had a 6 to 9-fold increase in our calls. And yeah, and we've had to hire additional advocates and therapists to support the increase of clients. And we don't just have them at the shelter. We have a great number of clients that don't need shelter. They found places to be, but they need legal advocacy. They need to deal with the trauma. They need an action plan to design their next steps. You know, so we do all of those types of services. And so we're looking at something that's dynamically different than ever before. We know that this isn't going to change. This is actually, I think, a coming out era where families are finding that we're so close to absolute danger every day that, and I'm hearing messages that I can get out.
Yeah.
And that means they need to be brave, but there'll be people holding their hands.
Well, where does most of your funding come from?
That's a great question. We actually have state and federal funding that supports the clients that we have in the shelter. Okay. So that's something that has been a constant. We also have 2 thriftiques. They're the first thriftiques in Arizona. They're very high class centers where it's like going to any other store. Everything is laid out really pretty and organized and sized and priced, and it's delightful to walk in, and you get greeted personally by all of our volunteers. We have over 70 volunteers for both of our thrift stores.
What did you call it? Thrifty?
Thriftique.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What a brilliant name.
And we were the first ones to actually get it trademarked as our work is Thriftique. And it's a very different experience than working into some other thrift stores. Right. Just because there's a genuine connection that we have among our volunteers and among our staff, that everyone counts. And whether you're donating, you're shopping, or you're volunteering, or please bring a family to our doors, sometimes at a thrift store. So we get 20% of our annual income actually from those thriftiques. So those are 2 social enterprises that actually help fund us. We didn't have a lot of individual donors because we really didn't have an infrastructure of how to orchestrate that before. And to give it a lot of attention. And now we have, I would say, at least quadrupled our individual donations. Critical because government funding is decreasing. Right. And then I actually, before I started here with Verde Valley Sanctuary, I helped them start their first endowment funds.
Wow.
So, getting people to really understand the power of endowment, that is a permanent source of revenue that is under the organization's control. And so as things change and flip in our economy, and when the funding decreases in certain ways, that's when our needs, again, increase. And so an endowment is one of those most pivotal ways to fund it. So we have a very diverse portfolio that's developed over the last, especially the last 3 years. And now we're on to what we need to do to address the increase of needs and services, and to go even further with the healing journey for those impacted by violence.
Okay. Well, I know I have a few questions here to ask you, and I know we're not going to get through them all. If I was just to ask you, what's the most impactful thing you could share that?
Okay. Well, we are, because of the need that we have, we are now very clear about our vision. And it's a 3-phase process. Right now, we're undergoing a renovation of our current shelter, main shelter building. And that is to bring in a great deal more beauty and dignity and privacy and safety. So we've really ramped up those areas. And so we have volunteers who are making handmade curtains around each of the beds. Those rooms are shared oftentimes, and so we really, and then they used to carry their personal items to the shower or the bathroom in bags that were plastic bags, because that's all they had.
Right.
Now we have little caddies, we have makeup, we have beauticians that help us. I mean, there's just so, from the moment that they call to the moment they step in our doors to the moment when they're emancipating their family and they're walking out that door, we're right there with them. And they get to go shopping in our thriftiques. They get, at no cost, they go and pick and choose and shop just like anyone else would. We look for special items when they need it. Even artist supplies for the burgeoning artist in the family. It's very cathartic. Or they need a breathing machine. We go out and find it. We do all of that. So we're renovating this shelter. Then we're expanding. We have 4 of our 28 beds are in a modular. We're going to remove the modular. We're going to replace it with a 3-story building, a basement for ongoing training and development, because our staff is working 24/7, 365 days a year.
Right.
So it's hard to move them, out of state to go get the training that we need. And then we have, the top floor is going to have 8 bedrooms, and those are especially for clients with special needs. If they have autism, they have been so traumatized they can't interact with individuals at that time. They're having a baby, and they have 3 other children with them, or they have pets. And only 5% of the shelters across the nation actually are pet friendly. We are one of them, and we're actually going to expand that because we understand those attachments during traumatic times. We want to preserve the family as much as possible in healthy ways. So we're going to have, pet areas to do this with too, so that we're taking good care. And then the 3rd phase of our work is to build a dignity center with transitional housing. And many of our families, the healing journey begins after they leave and they get settled. And affordable housing is very difficult here, very, very difficult to find, but we have miracles that happen all the time. But we want to provide a 2-year sanctuary for them to adjust to all of the domestic demands for their family, for themselves. We also want to help them not just get the next job, but to actually empower themselves with the skills they need to actually be in an economic bracket that's much safer for the family, to sustain themselves in a healthy way. We also want to have a very intentional academy to unlearn those patterns of behavior that are oftentimes very subconscious and very reactionary. And what we want to do is invite them to not do it over 3 decades like I've done, but rather shorten the span of time. And we also want to model, while we're doing this, how to not only address this global issue on a local level in a powerful way, but we also want to model what it's like to do this work as a steward of our environment. Our water issues here are very serious. Our population continues to rise. So should shouldn't we also look at best practice, not only programmatically, but also in terms of how we operate? I mean, we're one of the best models champions we could, if we could pull this off, that we're working 365 days a year and we pull it off, anyone can do this. And it's about intention and resourcing in ways that you had never considered before. But when you really set your sights on modeling the very best of who we can be as an organization, great, surprising things will happen. And so we're inviting people to help us with this. When you know of someone who is brilliant leading edge around green building at an economical level, how to resource that, how to design this. If we have students who are leading edge and want to build their portfolio and have an international destination to show off in their portfolio, we are that place, and we are going to make this happen. And we should be, I mean, this is another vitalization of our mission. We didn't have to change anything in our mission. We just said we're taking it all the way.
Right.
And it's really, it matters. Our children are behind, they're traumatized, they're triggered in school. We've got to help them catch up.
Oh, I so agree.
As their mothers are healing and trying to find their next job, and having a safe housing opportunity that they can truly afford. All of those things are quite a load to carry, and so that's what we want to do, is really support another level of learning how to design your life for prosperity and health and well-being, because we deserve it. And that's the way our world hopefully will become. So.
Absolutely. Oh, well, it's amazing. If somebody wanted to donate, what was that process?
We have our website, and there's several different options to give. I mean, I would honestly, if you were interested in donating, if you want to do it anonymously, you can do it on our website. Super easy. And if you want to do monthly, that's even more helpful, because we know that we can count on this for a specific period of time. If you wanted to make a commitment like you have, can I say that you're one of our donors?
You can say. I'm not going to say. I'm proud of it, but it's not to brag. It's just I want to.
No, I want to acknowledge that the reason that you and I are talking today is because you are a monthly donor and you live out of state.
Yeah.
And you made a commitment to us as part of who you are for several years. And then I reached out to you, and we had the most surprising, incredible conversation. And it made me feel good. It made you feel good. And then we got to talk about, well, what's next? What's going on? And then you invite me to do a podcast with you. No one could have anticipated that, but it was the simple act, an intentional act of generosity that led to what we're doing right now. And I think also will lend itself to where we're taking ourselves. And you're in Utah, and yet I feel you're right here.
Yeah.
You know, with us doing this. And we're not alone in doing this great new venture. And so that I'm looking for donors like you.
I believe there's people that will model what you guys are doing, and you're going to be doing good everywhere.
Thank you.
It's just starting small, and pretty soon you'll be helping so many women and men. You do help men as well, right?
We do. And I think that's another, I mean, for me, it's another future vision, is to help men recover from being abused, and for their abuse of others. Those are powerful patterns that can change. And where are we supporting them? How are we doing that? Why we shouldn't be just giving attention to women and children. We should also give attention to the abusers and help them find a way out of those devastating patterns too. And there are some efforts happening now around restorative justice, where they're having facilitated dialogues around, you know, identifying themselves as abusers. Where did that come from? What do they want now? What are they willing to do? And not doing it alone. And through their own vulnerability, becoming very strengthened around living a different life, not passing this on anymore.
Right. Well, okay, everyone listening, I know that was super powerful for you as it was for us. And you just know there is help out there. So make sure if you know somebody in a situation, or you're in a situation, male or female, there is places to go. You can get some help. Connect with me. I'll make sure I help you. I will find help for you. Believe me. And
I will also, you can call me, and I can help you whether you're needing help or you want to help. I love a phone call too. So, and I can do a Zoom conversation too. So just like we're doing right now.
Right. Well, and what I find is so heartwarming for me is people that get help usually are the people that give the help later. And that's powerful.
It is powerful, and I see it every day.
Yeah.
I hear another story that someone who's helping has a rhyme and a reason. They've been touched by it.
Yeah, but share your story. I think it's okay, And you're right, timing is everything. Well, okay. So you know how to do it. We're going to have all the information in the show notes where you can go and you can you can get involved somehow. It doesn't matter where you live. There are places all over, but these folks are doing a fabulous job at what they're doing. And I hope a lot more people start modeling that. I love the what is it? Thrifty?
Thrifty, right.
I love that. I can't even tell you how much.
I like it too.
From children's resale clothing store. And I did maternity and children's clothing like way long time ago when I was always before my time. I always get the good ideas and then do it. And then it's like, and it paid its way, but it was a time in my life I just couldn't keep it going. But I loved it. It was so fun to just do that. So it was called Little This and That.
Oh, I love that name.
That's what it was. I just had.
That's like oh my gosh, that's an invitation right there. Yeah.
Fun. Anyway, it was done a little 3 or 4 years before its time, but that's okay. It was still fun. And my kids were little and I needed clothes for them. So it was a perfect end. So I love stuff like that, but the Thrifty is such a great thing. So, okay. Thank you, listeners. And thank you so much, Tracy, for joining us. And
thank you.
We can get the word out and that we can, help serve you any way we can.
Yay. Thank you very, very, very much. It's been fun.
Yes. Okay, everybody, enjoy your day. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Prosperity Profiles Podcast, sponsored by Prosperity Profilers, LLC, helping you look prosperous, feel prosperous, and be prosperous. We hope you enjoyed our time together, and we'll visit again soon. You can learn more about Prosperity Profilers by going to hollyporter.com.